plenty of time to come and be served at the refreshment center before showtime.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
You know what? I would get busted because I tend to eat while I drive. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I just like gorge all day. I might have to curtail that.
So this episode is going to be a departure for us. We tend not to delve into the crime drama, and we're going back into a director's oeuvre. So this is like a spotlight on a particular director.
We are double dipping because once we realized who directed this new movie, which welcome everybody. Apparently we are now in. Jim just likes to drop that on me. So it's funny because I just mentioned before, I listen to a ton of podcasts during my workday. And whether it's a YouTube video or it's a podcast, that everybody starts their show like, "What's up, everybody, yo?" And I'm like, I can't do that. I could try and do it, but I don't. So we just do a hearty welcome.
I would love to listen to podcasts like you do, but I'm so afraid that they would influence me on what I should or shouldn't be doing on this podcast.
Well, I know what I'm doing wrong. I just can't change it. It was pointed out to me that our third member is sorely missed.
Let's address this right up front. Christina hasn't been here for several weeks. This is the thing, is that anybody that's missing Christina, we have confirmation that she will be back a little bit later this summer. So we're in June already, so it shouldn't be that long. I am guessing maybe in the mid to late July time frame. So
let's see. Let's think about the movies that are dropping then. Wrath of Man. So we knew. So this is the thing, which is we're starting to get back into the theater, but we're still kind of struggling with this. We're constantly trying to find new movies. And you would think that after 180 episodes, we would have talked about every movie ever made, but no, they keep making new ones. So Wrath of Man, I've been hearing good stuff about it. So we said, let's do it. Jason Statham. And lo and behold, we discovered that this is a Guy Ritchie movie. So immediately Jim says, oh, we have to do Snatch.
Here's the thing is when I went to go see A Quiet Place 2, not too long ago in the theater, I went to my local, which is a 4-screen theater. And on the marquee was this title, The Wrath of Man. And here I am. I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know it was a Jason Statham movie because there was no poster in the lobby. And certainly didn't know it was a Guy Ritchie movie. I assumed it was like a biblical Kirk Cameron movie just from the title. So I'm like, I have no interest in seeing this.
Oh, that I would see.
So then a few weeks later, I run across it on Amazon on my feed, and there's Jason Statham. And then lo and behold, I just look at the description, and it's a Guy Ritchie movie with Jason Statham. And I don't think that's happened since Snatch. He was his go-to for his first couple of big breakout movies, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then
I was going to ask you about this because, I mean, I know I have seen this movie in the past, but it's one of those things that don't really stick with me. I know the Guy Ritchie to me was the guy that was married to Madonna for a day, but we'll get into it. So, yes, we are doing Wrath of Man, and we are doing Snatch. So that'd be pretty cool. I will tell you, because I know you're going to ask this, I have absolutely no movie news this week.
Absolutely zero, none.
The only news I have is personal news, which is I've been out fighting some thieves of my own this week. Apparently there's some counterfeit TMI merchandise out there. Counterfeit merch. Who knew that people were trying to we can't even make money off this stuff. How are they doing it?
Lo and behold, the disappointment they must have felt once they did counterfeit us and saw 0 sales on the merch that they counterfeited.
Correct. So they must. So here's the story, which is just randomly Googling, and some of our stuff was showing up on Redbubble and one of these T-shirt websites. So I had to do a cease and desist. One of them's already been pulled, but the second one is still out there, and it's the caricatures of the 3 of us. So if you don't listen to the show, why would you want that? But if you do want a shirt, the only place you can go is TeePublic, is where we have a page. It's tpublic.com/movie-nerd. So yeah, unless you had stumbled across something this week, I have absolutely no news. Yeah,
I have not. Just, inconsequential stuff. I'm reading that Gal Gadot is not going to portray Wonder Woman in the Flash movie, that they're going to get somebody else.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What is going on over there? Don't they lock them into like multi-movie deals like Marvel?
You'd think so, yeah.
Because
that's what I read, these things.
Well, that's too bad, because she personifies that character and she needs to keep playing it. There'll probably be a different.
Is there a plane crashing in your neighborhood?
Over here. I forgot to tell you, I moved to we couldn't afford the rent anymore, so we now live at the end of an airport.
Word of the worlds must be happening. All the planes are dropping out of the sky.
Well, listen, if Tom Cruise runs by, I'm out of here. So, but until then, we'll just keep going.
So no news means that we are talking about Wrath of Man that much sooner. Episode.
Here's the other thing, which is it's still going to be a double-sized episode, because on the back end, we are going to be talking about episode 1 of Loki. You didn't forget about that, right?
I didn't forget about that. I watched Loki.
You did watch it.
I am prepared.
All right. Well, let's get into Wrath of Man, and then we'll back end it with Loki. So,
Wrath of Man. So just the title alone. Again, I was mistaken. I thought it was some kind of a biblical epic, but that is not the case.
It's a lame title.
If you think about it, it's setting you up for a Death Wish type revenge story, and that's exactly what you get with Wrath of Man. You don't know up front that that's what you're getting, but eventually it's revealed to be so.
Yeah, I mean, the minute you're introduced to Jason Statham's character, H, or was it Hall?
Patrick Hill is his pseudonym, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going to spoil things, actually. We're going to spoil.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this, turn it off.
Yeah, this has got like a couple of twists going on throughout it. So, yeah, we're going to...
But something's up with him from the beginning, that there's more to this character. Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing it. It would be somebody else. But Guy Ritchie, did he direct, he wrote, and he produced this? Like, his name was all over this thing.
Although, it's not like he created it from the ether. This is based on a French movie called Cash Truck that was released in 2004.
What do bank robbers eat for dessert?
What do bank robbers eat for dessert? I don't know. Heist cream.
There's your 4-year-old joke for the day.
What a dad joke. I'm really sorry that Christina is not here today now.
Oh, I tickled myself pink with that one. Sorry. So, Guy Ritchie, again, I think you have more of a history with this director.
Well, not really, because I was a huge fan of both Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels when it was released, and then Snatch. I actually came at them reversed. I saw Snatch first, and then I immediately went back to Lock, Stock. But since then, he's kind of been all over the map. As you said, he was married to Madonna and directed that one movie where she was a castaway. I don't even remember the name of it. Very poorly received. As we know, he did Aladdin. That was surprising to me.
That I didn't know. That I was like, wait, what? The Aladdin? The Will Smith Aladdin?
The Will Smith Aladdin. He did the Sherlock Holmes movie with
That's right, yes.
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.
He did that Arthur movie that was shelved for so long. The King Arthur movie.
Oh, the King
Not
Arthur.
Dudley Moore Arthur.
No, I was actually thinking of the little aardvark on PBS.
Oh, okay.
I was going even deeper than that one.
Yeah, they pulled out Stephen Bishop to do the theme song for Guy Ritchie's Arthur.
Go. But if you watch these movies, he has a very distinctive style.
Yes, he does. And it was kind of set in stone almost with Lock, Stock, and Snatch, with this Cockney crime drama, funny.
The rat-a-tat fast cuts, which I equate to, he probably did it first, but if you watch like something like Hot Fuzz, they do it. Edgar Wright did a lot of that, the real quick cut edits. And I'm going to Snatch with the Dennis Farina character. which was a running gag that, you know, he jumps on a plane, he downs a drink, the plane flies, you see his passport get stamped, and it's all like this little quick montage and like a 2-3 second, you know, click 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 kind of a thing. So it's very rat-a-tat. That to me was kind of like his signature.
It's almost, this is probably a very poor analogy, but he's got his own language. So it's almost like a Cockney version of Quentin Tarantino, almost, even though that their styles are not similar at all.
Right.
But I just say that because the fact that Quentin Tarantino, you can almost tell when you're watching by listening to his dialogue, a Quentin Tarantino movie. And it's the same thing with Guy Ritchie, not only dialogue, but stylistically, visually.
Yes.
So that's why it's really out there that he took such a left turn with things like Aladdin and to an extent Sherlock Holmes and Arthur, because you see the style is still there, but not as all consuming as it is in Lock, Stock and Snatch. And so looking at Wrath of Man, I was kind of expecting a return to those early movies, but you don't get that at all. If I didn't realize it was a Guy Ritchie movie, I wouldn't have thought to myself, absolutely, this is a Guy Ritchie movie.
Nope.
You know,
no, you watch these. So I watched Wrath of Man first, and then backtracked and watched Snatch. And it's been a very long time since I've seen it, and they're two completely different movies. You're right. You would never know that this is the same director. There's no style, no substance whatsoever in this Wrath of Man. There's a couple clever camera moves, and we'll get into it because you actually alluded to it before we even hit record. Yeah, it could have been directed by anybody. And the dialogue's horrible.
You know, you're expecting
not to tip my hat,
but you're expecting like a Jason Statham has become like a modern day English version of Bruce Lee. When he is in a movie now, you know, and including the Fast and the Furious movies or Hobbs and Shaw, you're expecting him to kick multiple people's asses, like at once, preferably. And he can do it, and he does it quite handily. He's very restrained here in Wrath.
Yeah, and when he does, it's gunplay. There's one scene where he does go all in his hand-to-hand combat. He has a helmet on, so you can't even tell if it's him or not.
The commonality between our two movies here, that, you know, not only are they starring Jason Statham, but Snatch also doesn't feature him really as an action hero.
No,
he is one of the ensemble.
But he is but it's told from his point of view. He's
right.
voicing over.
But it's not like he's kicking, you know, all the
correct.
movies.
Man, if anything, he's normally getting his butt kicked.
Yeah.
So first of all, Miramax. I thought
Miramax. I got that written down. I'm like, wait a second, because this movie, it's not like it sat on the shelf for 10 years when Miramax was in its heyday. This is a movie that's like dated 2021.
Yeah.
Like you would think that would be like an albatross around your neck to have that.
I didn't even know that they were still slapping that logo on things.
Oh, talk about bad taste in your mouth immediately.
And then of course you see the MGM logo and you're like, oh, you might as well just change that to Amazon now. Yeah.
So the movie is following armored car drivers. So that's the whole center point of the movie, is this company that is an armored car company, and the drivers and the risks that they take every day. Fortico? Was that the name of it?
Yeah, you see this logo like repeatedly throughout the movie.
I paid no attention to what the name of the company was.
That's what I'm here for.
You're
here for the plot. I'm here to pick the pieces up. Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's two guys driving. And this opening is clever because it's the camera. It's a one shot inside the back of the truck. You never really see the driver. You do see the passenger, and they're just engaging in this conversation, and you see them as they're driving out, and they confront a road construction. So the guys got the stop sign, and all of a sudden the mixer truck pulls up, but then all hell just breaks loose, and these guys break into it, but the camera never leaves the back of the truck. So there's stuff going on outside of your vision that you can't see. It's off screen,
but you can hear it. You can
hear it, and you can kind of, you hear shots being fired. These guys get dragged out. You know, you see the money being taken out of the back of the truck and whatnot. So it was clever because you kind of know that there's more going on than what you just witnessed.
And you know what's funny is you mentioned you never see the driver. So I'm thinking that that is going to play into this plot
Yes.
somehow, that the
Yeah.
driver is somehow orchestrating this, but that never happens.
No. By the time we were introduced to 5 of the characters, I had already figured out who the inside guy was.
Because
It's
now
not-
you know at this point in your, in just if you're an avid movie fan, that whoever the bad guy is in a twist movie like this, they're always make it such a point to make it the person that you least suspect. So now you're
Right.
looking at the person that you would
Yeah.
least suspect, and that is always who it turns out to be.
Yeah, I did suspect like 3 of them at one point, but I think I even wrote it here. Yeah, so we see this, we hear out after the fact that the 2 employees and a civilian were killed in this heist.
Yes. And you know what? I just want to add that during this sequence, when it's like security camera footage in the back of the truck, and it's like all one continuous shot, you're looking in between the driver and the passenger at what
Yep.
they're seeing through the windshield. And then when you see the truck pull up, the construction truck, and block their path, block the road, one of the guys says, "Oh, construction's early today." You know, as a viewer, that this is a very
Yeah.
bad thing that you're looking at.
Correct.
But somehow, as armored security guards, they have no clue what's about to happen.
Yeah. Even though you see later when Jason Statham's character is applying for a job, and it's very rigorous what he has to go through in order to be a hired security guard. And I'm like, do you remember that movie Armed and Dangerous with John Candy and Eugene Levy? I don't think they had to do this in order to drive a heist truck.
Because he even goes through shooting practice to get on there.
Yeah. So we do this very James Bond opening credits, which I thought was really nice. There was some weird cartoon animal on animal violence going on in these graphics, where like snakes were attacking snakes and other animals were biting into each other, which I thought was weird, and it doesn't play into this movie at all. There's no rhyme or reason for it.
So after you see the opening robbery and the drivers are shot and again, you don't see who does it because the camera never leaves the inside of the truck.
Yeah, and they're all wearing masks.
They're all wearing masks, right? So then you get that banner 3 months later.
But it's also broken into 3 different story arcs. So it's actually the first one is called A Dark Spirit. Like that is the title of this sequence. And that's where we're introduced to H, which is Jason Statham. And he's interviewing for this job. You're introduced to Bullet. And then Boy Sweat Dave, who is Josh Hartnett. And I'm like, when the hell's the last time you saw him in any kind of a movie?
It was so surprising to see him. I was in disbelief that it was actually him until I saw his name in the credits. It's like, this guy has to be just a guy that looks like him.
And then when the movie's over, you're like, why? He's such a throwaway character. He didn't do anything.
But, this is telling that when Jason Statham's character just walks off the street and applies for a job here at this Fortico company, he is taken under the wing of Bullet, who Jeff just mentioned. Yes. He's kind of like the mentor or trainer, I guess.
Oh, yeah. He's a grizzled old veteran who's looking to retire.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so
train these new kids.
You always need to be like very watchful of these characters, especially if it's a character actor that you've seen in a lot of other movies.
Yeah.
So you're like, this guy has to play into this somehow. The actor here is Holt McCallany, and I know him best from the Netflix show Mindhunter, which was not on that long ago. He's showing H the ropes. And it's almost like this setup, like inside this armored car company. It's like Oz. It's like prisoners are looking to shank H as soon as he gets on the job.
So you immediately think they're all in on this. He barely passes his like he needed a 70% kill ratio or something during the training, and he gets 70. But my wife points out the fact that so he doesn't hit the target, the body, the standard body shaped target with the different kill zones or whatever, but he shoots out the numbers.
Yeah, I got that impression too, that he was shooting them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. But he's like, oh, 70%, you just made it. And you're like, oh, this guy's a better shoot than that. Mm-hmm. Like it's so telegraphed. And we're immediately like, he's on the job a day. They immediately get held up. Bullet is captured. And I'm like, he's in on it. It's right there on my notes. But then Statham just, he's told to stand down and just let them take the money or whatever. And he doesn't. And next thing you know, he's sharpshooting everybody. And
he's taking them all out like one shot at a time, like
Yep.
with headshots.
Yeah.
And I have to say that rapper Post Malone is the head bad guy here and the last one that's taken out. And let me just, a word of advice for would-be armed car robbers. If a driver suddenly snaps to, kills your whole crew, and you're the last one left, don't taunt him by asking him to suck your blank.
Defiant to the end, right?
Defiant to the end.
Yeah.
Doesn't work
Okay.
out so well for him.
No, it doesn't normally.
So now, after the H has saved the day here and thwarted this robbery, he is the hero back at Fortico. So he's got everyone on his side now, where nobody was on his side before.
Yeah. And it's funny because was it Boy Sweat Dave that was giving him grief?
Boy Sweat Dave. Is it ever explained why he's called Boy Sweat Dave?
No, I would assume that when he first came on the job, he probably sweat a lot because he's very boy. Josh Hartnett doesn't look like he ever aged past 12.
True.
Even with facial hair.
It's funny. The last time I questioned a name in a movie or show this much was during The Boys and the character of Mother's Milk, who shows up in this movie, by the way, the same actor. So here comes the big question. The first question I have. In the events immediately following H's takedown of these robbers, and do all these robbers, do they need to throw such harsh language around? Can't you, isn't the gun enough? Do you have to drop the F-bomb?
Oh, you got it. Listen, if I have a gun, I'm waving around, I'm going to drop the F-bomb. You have to, right? I think it just comes with the territory.
Yeah, I think it does.
When you actually get your gun permit, you're allowed a certain amount of F-bombs.
After the robbery, after H saves the day, he's being interviewed back at the station by the FBI, right? I guess they're trying to work out if this was an inside job and like, why does he have such sharpshooting skills and, how he took these guys down so easily. And they just accepted at the end that, he's the hero, right? So as they're walking out of the place, they're on the street and they're with Andy Garcia, who's their boss, the FBI agent who's their boss.
Yeah, I didn't even pick up that was him.
They're talking to each other like, this is the guy we've been looking for 25 years. They don't say who it is exactly that they've been looking for, but they just let it go.
They let him go. Yeah. No, we're just going to turn a blind eye and let him do what he needs to do. We know what he's here for, kind of a thing. And that's also where he goes back to his apartment. And then this girl shows up and gives him a coroner's report. And so now you're like, all right, what's going on? You see the name on the coroner's report is Douglas John Hargreaves. And I'm like, oh, are we going full on Umbrella Academy here? But no, they didn't go there. And I think this is where it cuts 3 months later. And then you see that he is now, he nailed the girl, Dana, who's one of the other. There's a scene where you see him. He's constantly, whenever they're punching out at the end of the day, he's always looking at their comm badges. There's like a wall you punch out and then you put your badge back into the slot. And he's always kind of like checking it out.
Did he take a photo of the badges at one point?
I think so. There were certain points where I kind of clocked out on this, especially once we start jumping. He beds Dana and then immediately interrogates her because he's trying to find out who the inside person is, right? But then we cut to like chapter 2, which is Scorched Earth. And then we see the entire opening heist again, but from H's point of view, because he's picking up his son, Dougie, and they are going to a ball game.
It's revealed that H is not Patrick Hill. His name is really Hargreaves. And he is like a crime boss or something.
He is a crime boss. Yeah, because this is where it gets really confusing because you see this white-haired guy who's a bad guy, and he's on the phone with H, and he calls him boss. So you're like, all right, this guy. So what is going on here? So,
but yet he's calling him boss. Like he's dictating that he has to go and observe Fortico. You don't tell your boss what to do, especially if he's a scary guy like Hargreaves. And Hargreaves is like, I'm with my son. This is my only day off. No boss, you have to go. The other guy's sick. I don't know what happened to the other guy. I forget. But so this is what sets the opening robbery in motion because Hargreaves brings his son. He says, and the son apparently doesn't really know what his father does, right? So he says,
nobody ever does, right? Your dad's he's a carpet salesman.
Yeah. So all Hargreaves has to do is show up outside of Fortico and look to see what direction the truck
But he
goes
told him
in,
the
left
wrong
or
way.
right.
He goes, just, all you got to do is tell me which direction the truck is going, right or left. And it makes a right. And doesn't he say left?
Does he really?
I
No,
thought
I
he
think he
did.
says the right direction. I think he
Did
says
he? I gotta
right.
look. I gotta go back and watch. I'm not paying another $20.
Maybe
I'm
he
not
just
watching it again.
wants his men to be on their toes. He's going to tell them the wrong thing, right? So anyway, in order for him to watch the trucks leave Fortico, he has to go to a food truck. So he leaves Dougie in the SUV and he walks around the corner to the food truck. And as he's eating, he's waiting for the truck to see what direction it goes in. Now, in the meantime, this is the same day the robbery is happening that we saw at the beginning of the movie.
Well, that's the truck. Yeah. That's the truck that gets robbed at the beginning.
And it gets robbed right in full view of where Dougie is sitting in the SUV.
Yeah.
So much so that the robbers notice Dougie and make him get out of the truck and make him go face down on the pavement, just like, he's involved in the robbery.
Well, he's seen them. And the other idiot shoots the two guards.
Yeah. So
and he witnesses that. So I think that was also,
Yeah. So
anyways,
we don't know who these robbers are just yet, but we do know that there's an unhinged member of the robbers that shot the two guards. That was not meant to happen. And he also goes over and shoots Dougie, Jason Statham's son. Now, Jason Statham is running back as he's hearing the gunshots, but he's too late to save his son. And he gets shot as well by the robbers.
And you think he's dead, but we know he's not because we see
him 3 months later.
And this is where another 3 months later he wakes up in the hospital. But wouldn't people know his name and face by now? That he's in a hospital, he miraculously survived this gunning of this horrible heist. You think that there'd be news reporters all over the place.
Yeah, that he's like a known criminal figure, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
He recovers in the hospital, and then he gets his crime syndicate, who he is the boss of, to track down every single hoodlum in the city to find out who killed his son, who perpetrated this robbery.
This is a nice little montage of them going and shaking down people, and they're playing Johnny Cash's "I Hear a Train Coming." Although I think it's a cover version. I don't know if it was Johnny Cash. But that's also when you find out that the FBI knows he's doing this and they're allowing him to do it. Because he says to Andy Garcia at one point, "I'm going to do in 2 weeks what you couldn't do in 2 years."
And he does. He basically kills every criminal, I think, in Los Angeles.
But they were his people. But they were it was his guys, right? The white-haired guy called him Mike. So they knew. I don't know.
Well, no, here's the thing is that we did skip over the section where there's a second robbery, and it was his, as you say, it was his team. But apparently they don't know that Hill went undercover and is working in Fortico.
I got the impression that they knew he went undercover. Where would he would just disappear?
No, because at the end of that montage where they're killing all the criminals and they never find who killed his son, he says he's going back to London and laying low.
Okay.
And they say, good idea. But rather than doing that, he goes and takes the job at Fortico.
I completely missed that because my big question was, why would Mike and the crew hold up an armored car knowing that he was infiltrating them?
Because this is what they do, but they don't know that what he's doing. They don't know that he's trying to get information and work as a... So when they see him as they're holding up the armored car, that's why they back away.
Back up and then you cut back to him back in Fortico again, and they're like, wait, they just walked away? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. The HR guy wants to put him on leave because this is like twice now he's experienced. Whenever someone's in a shootout or has an issue like that, they like to pull him off the road and let them mentally be evaluated, make sure that they're no PTSD or whatever. And we're just gonna he's a hero, man. Put him back out there. He's doing his job.
So that happens before we get the flashback and before we find out who Jason Statham's character really is. But fast forwarding to the flashback where they're killing all the criminals, and they still can't find who's done it. They're torturing criminals, trying to get them to tell them who perpetrated this robbery, and nobody knows. And finally they say, well, we haven't tried the Gashi brothers yet, the scumbags of the city. I'm like, I think that's where you were to start one. You start with them.
Yeah, you work your way up. Tenet, I hate to say this, Tenet has a more comprehensive storyline than this. Because
I disagree. I disagree.
So then we're introduced to this crew who are disgruntled soldiers from Afghanistan.
Yes. So now that we know who Jason Statham is and why he is working at Fortico, because he wants to find out who killed his son, and he's convinced that there's a mole, and he's right.
Mole.
Then we find out who is doing it. And the
Yes.
reason that he can't find them, that his crime syndicate can't find them, is because these guys aren't criminals per se.
Yeah.
They are soldiers who are disgruntled, who don't make a lot of money, back in the real world. So they're using their skills to rob people, and they've established an inside person at this Fortico. And now they're robbing.
Surprise, surprise.
trucks.
We guessed. But
Yeah.
so you're introduced to these guys. Jackson, Sarge, that's the guy who leads them.
Jackson. Yes.
Jackson. All right. And then we see the guy with the scar who we knew shot Dougie, and his name is Jan. And he is like you said before, he's the loose cannon.
He is played by Scott Eastwood, Clint's son. Now, this guy is a lot younger, seemingly, than everybody
Than
else
the other
in
ones,
this
yeah.
troop. So I'm like, was he 12 when they were serving?
Right. Yeah, you got the impression that maybe they actually were still serving.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. But then we see the heist for a third time from their point of view. Now, at least in the second time when we saw it again, it was revealed to us that Dougie was shot, and that's why H is involved in this. But when you see it for a third time, you don't learn anything new. There's nothing else that we get from this except you just see it from their point of view. So then from there, it cuts to 5 months later. So this movie is like, it takes 2 years to get to the story. Yeah.
So now this is so the ultimate robbery that these guys want to perpetrate is actually robbing Fortico itself, the headquarters, on Black Friday, when
Yes.
the most I don't know how much
180 million in
180
play.
million.
So there we go. So one last hit, Black Friday. We're all gonna walk away, and so you know that this is gonna go horribly wrong.
Yes,
Because we're now in the last 20 minutes of the movie. This movie is 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 56 seconds, by the way.
And you counted every second, didn't you?
There was a couple times I did pause it going, where are we in this?
Yeah. It's on Black Friday, and H is riding with Bullet, and because they're partners, they always go out together.
And this is the third act, and it's the title is Liver, Lungs, Spleen, and Heart.
Because, that does play into it very specifically a little bit later on.
Yes.
But Bullet says to H as they're driving the truck, I like you. I'm going to share something with you. And you think to yourself, here it comes.
Yep.
I'm the guy. I'm the inside guy. I've been working with this team on the outside. They are planning on robbing the headquarters today. And if you don't play along, you're going to get shot and killed.
So he tells him this. So he goes full on syndrome monologuing and then turns off the camera inside the truck. Don't you think you should have done that before you revealed the fact
before
that
you revealed that you're the guy? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that you can't just turn off a tracker or it's an armored truck. Listen, I drive a brown truck for a living. They know where I am every freaking minute of the day. How many times I back up where I am. I can only imagine the safety protocol in place for these trucks. You can't just, I'm guessing you can't just turn it off. But
right. But
if
he
you
does.
were going to turn it off, it should be before you divulge the fact that you're a bad guy.
And now this is what I'm thinking as well. H says to him, well, what's in it for me? And he goes, your life?
Your life. Yeah. Basically, we're not going to kill you. You've already seen the guy can shoot.
So H pretty much allows this to happen, right? So, again, like you said, we've seen him shoot.
He's
biding his time.
He knows who the inside guy is.
The platoon boards the truck, and then there's a car following them up behind so they can actually infiltrate Fortico. And then once they get in there, it all breaks loose and pretty much everybody dies. And you think that H dies as well because he gets shot several times during the ensuing battle.
But then all of a sudden, so Bullet is like, I've done my time. I'm just going to retire. No, now he just becomes a full on bad guy, and he killed Dana. He kills the other guy that she's hiding in the truck with. He takes out Boy Sweat Dave, and then he guns down H. Now, are there no security cameras inside the facility? This is not thought out. The other guys they're all in headgear, right? They all have helmets. They all got body armor that can repel bullets. And yet this guy's still in his uniform with nothing. It's just him, bullet, running around, shooting people.
So here's the thing is they have to get out now. And now the SWAT team is like going to be there in 2 minutes and they're timing this.
It's cutting back and forth to them planning this out with the little Hot Wheels trucks. And they're like, listen, once the SWAT truck gets here, we're never getting out of here. Right now, we've got an armored truck that we can barrel past the patrol cars. But once that SWAT team is in place, we're screwed. So they have a very window.
And they do get out before the SWAT team gets there. And you're thinking to yourself, well, there's a helicopter. How are they going to elude everybody that's chasing them? They drive into like a parking garage. And apparently there's all these tunnels that they know about that nobody else does. They have these all-terrain vehicles that are like waiting for them. And now, like we said, there's only like 3 guys that are still alive from the crew. You have the Sarge. Yep. You have Bullet. And you have, of course, Jan. Sarge is killed by Jan because we know that Jan is unhinged already because Jan wants all the money to himself. So now it's just Bullet and Jan. Bullet doesn't know that Jan has killed Sarge. So now they escape on the all-terrain vehicles through the tunnels. And as they're loading the money into their getaway vehicle, Bullet tries to kill Jan, but is too slow. Jan gets him first. So now it's just Jan who goes to his apartment with the money. So he thinks that he's won, but H is still alive. And he
miraculously.
This
is the second time he's taken multiple bullets.
And not only is he still alive, but he makes it to Jan's apartment because he's left a phone in the money bag so he can trace where Jan has gone. And so now we get the scene where H extracts his revenge, and hence the title of this section of the movie. He shoots Jan in every place that Jan shot his son.
Yep. Liver, lungs, spleen, and heart. Although I think your liver's on your right-hand side. Am I wrong? He did shoot him in the left-hand side first, but I don't know. H should have changed his name to Boris the Bullet Dodger. Really? Yeah, and he should have used a silencer. He's in an apartment shooting up this guy. H
does get his revenge in the end and then goes back to his crew. So it's not like that, I like being a driver. I think I'm going to leave the criminal life. Nope. Yeah, once his job is done, he's back to being a crime boss.
Yeah, and the FBI just lets it all happen.
Yeah.
He basically does their work for him.
Because that's the only reason you can think of that Andy Garcia is letting him go and letting him exist as he is because he's killing all these other mob bosses that they no longer have to worry about.
Yeah. So I guess they don't want him anymore. They've been chasing him for 20 years, but now
they're just going to let him go. Yeah.
You know what? He did us a favor. He did us a good solid.
So, okay. So again, this is, even though it's a Jason Statham action movie, it's not the type of movie that you expect from him.
This
it's
stops
like all
becoming a
gunplay.
Revenge movie halfway through, and it just becomes a run-of-the-mill heist.
It's really bleak. I don't even want to say dark. There's just not any humor in it. It's just really
like I said,
straight ahead.
The poo-poo pants was the only line that I actually chuckled at. Statham, you're introduced to Dougie just to see him get killed. He's separated from his wife, so he has a nasty relationship with her anyways. And you never once cared for his character. You didn't really, it's not like Death Wish. It's not like any of these other movies where you're rooting for this guy to take these people out that destroyed his family. And we've seen this storyline a billion times from Punisher on, Death Wish.
Yeah. Because the only time you're with him is when you don't know who he is, when he's just getting the job and he's becoming the driver, and then he's a hero after he thwarts that robbery in the beginning. But then once you realize that he is a criminal himself.
Yeah, he's a piece of crap.
Yeah, because Snatch is as much of a comedy as it is like a gritty action film.
It is like we said at the beginning, if you come on board because it's a Guy Ritchie movie, this is not anything. I mean, I watched Snatch afterwards, and it was like, there is no way that if I was a fan of this guy that I'd walk away going, this is they did it again. Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham together again. It's like, no, it's bleh.
Yeah, and it's not even as good as like a non-Guy Ritchie Jason Statham movie.
Yeah.
Like if you want something like that, go watch the Transporter movies, which are excellent action movies. Yeah, this is just grim and it's not enjoyable to watch, I hate to
No.
say.
Actually, my original title for this week was Guy Ritchie snuck into my house and stole 2 hours of my life.
I don't think buckets are going to be plentiful here.
No, they're not. I was very disappointed with this. Not even style. There's no style except for that opening shot with the camera where the camera's just still. There was really nothing to it. It just, I don't know. Two and a quarter.
2 1/4. I'm going to go 2 buckets for me. And it doesn't help that we watched Snatch right afterwards.
Yes, which is infinitely rewatchable.
Yes, it is. But let's go to the concession stand before we start gushing. And we will be right back.
All right,
with
let's
Snatch.
Lowell, Superintendent of Police Leonard O. McPhail, and Property ID Cope Director Captain Thomas W. Kelleher discuss and formulate plans for the implementation of the Community Organization Alert Plan. Designed and instituted to prevent crimes through neighborhood self-help, the Police Community Relations Bureau is on the way to success. And here is how Cope works. You see a criminal offense in progress. Call the police at 40425. Identify yourself as a Cope member, and you don't have to give your name. Give the officer on duty all the details of the crime. Who, what, where, and when. Radio control will immediately dispatch mobile police units to the scene of the intended crime.
Here's a new taste treat. The corn dog. Plump, juicy wieners are dipped in a thick, golden Southern-style corn batter that seals in all their freshness and flavor. If you like hot dogs, you'll love corn dogs. Everybody does. Try a corn dog with your favorite beverage. At the refreshment corner now.
Okay, so we're back.
We are back. Wow, that was really quick.
It was that was a quick trip.
I don't even think I had time to digest my popcorn.
Please open your jujubes right now and take off the cellophane before the movie starts so we don't upset everybody around us.
I don't like candy. I don't eat
snow
candy
caps. You don't even like snow caps?
I do like snow caps. Those little things stick in my teeth.
What do they call those? Non-parallels?
Non-parallels, yeah. The bitter chocolate ones.
Okay, so let's talk about Snatch.
I watched it on Tubi.
I watched it on Blu-ray because I like this so much. It's part of my personal collection.
As well it should, because I enjoyed this immensely. And after watching this, made me realize just what a turd Wrath of Man really is. When you compare these two movies, the characters are just so enjoyable. And again, with the rat-a-tat, the quick concept, and I have a very hard time with this dialogue, and I wish I was smart enough to put on the closed caption.
Oh yeah,
I can't even imagine what Brad Pitt's closed caption was.
Brad
Did they actually
Pitt,
have?
You know what he's saying when you watch the closed captions, and it actually makes sense because if you don't have the closed captions on, he is unintelligible. But
which is on purpose.
It's on purpose, but here's the thing about his achievement here. This came out in the US in January of 2001, like a full 6 months after it was released in the UK.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is very funny because we didn't say this about Wrath of Man. This is released, Wrath of Man was released theatrically in April, May in some markets in the US and Canada. It hasn't even come out yet in the UK, Wrath of Man. Not until July. It's already made 125 million worldwide, which just goes to show how much of an action star worldwide Jason Statham is.
Oh, yeah.
But Snatch, on the other hand, got a very muted, indie kind of US release. I remember seeing it in a small theater and delighted. It was my first Guy Ritchie. I hadn't seen Lock, Stock yet. Laughed out loud several times. And I've seen it many times since. It's a delight. It really is.
It really is.
And just, going to, Brad Pitt is a big highlight of this film. But as we said earlier, it's an ensemble. So he's not the star by any means.
No, I think they actually had to write him a role. He asked to be in this.
Yeah, and he was reluctant because he had just come off of Fight Club,
right?
And
so
didn't want to play such a similar
him.
Character, but because he was a Guy Ritchie fan, as you say, he said, "Forget it, I'm going to do it anyway." which is funny because, even though that they are, pugilists, the two characters, the two movies, you couldn't be more different than.
No, correct.
When I first saw this, I didn't have the benefit of subtitles whenever Brad Pitt would come on screen. I thought he was just talking gibberish. I didn't think that he was saying anything. But when you actually read what he's saying,
It makes
you hear it.
It's dialogue.
You hear it. Yeah.
Well,
it is
there's that one
dialogue.
where he's so Statham's character is Turkish, and he's trying to
That's
convince
his
him
name.
to fight. Yes, maybe he is Turkish, and that's why who knows? There's what you got? Freddie Four Fingers. Freddie
Yeah,
Four
great
Fingers.
names, by the way. Like it made me
Yeah.
think of Dick Tracy, actually.
Yes, yeah, Bullet Tooth Tony. So
Yeah.
you got some fun names going on here. Gorgeous George. But when he's negotiating with Turkish, they're in the field or whatever, and like you said, you can't understand. And Statham's character actually turns to his buddy and he's like, "Did you understand a word he just said?" And they're like, "No." And then Mickey, who's Brad Pitt's character, he says, "Have I made myself clear?" And that's the only thing you can understand is him asking if you understand what he says. But he's such a delight. He's so much fun. This was I was so happy to watch this again. I had to sit through commercials on Tubi, but
Oh, did you really?
yeah, that's all right. It was free.
I don't think that we should really try to go through the plot because it's just going to backfire on us because there's so
Yeah,
much
I don't. Yeah, there's
finding
a lot
things.
going on. But I will tell you that Guy Ritchie loves the C word and good old fashioned plastic bags because they do show up in both of these movies at one
Yeah.
point. But
and bats and knives as well.
yes, and dogs who eat squeaky toys.
Yeah. From a bird's eye view, there's pretty much two storylines going on. One that follows Turkish and Tommy, who are small-time boxing promoters,
Yep.
who are working with this big-time gangster by the name of Bricktop,
Riptop.
played by Alan Ford, who was, I don't know if you remember, because he had a very small part in An American Werewolf in London. He was the cabbie that
Oh, get
tells
out of here.
David Naughton and Jenny
Stay out the
Agutter that
wars?
there's been been a murder. So David Naughton realizes that he has killed all these people the night before. So he's the cabbie in
No, I don't. No, I
London.
have to go back and watch that.
So yeah, but after
And
seeing
he's over the
Snatch,
top. He's absolutely over the
he
top
is
in this
completely
movie. It's
over the
great.
top. Yep.
Yeah. There's some great lines. We also learn how to properly dispose of a human body with greedy pigs.
With pigs, which you should know if you've ever seen Hannibal, by the way, the
Yeah.
sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
And Vinnie Jones, so Vinnie Jones, I really only know that name as the Juggernaut, unfortunately. But after watching him in this, I'm like, boy, he got shafted in that Deadpool movie, or not that was it Deadpool? It was X-Men 3. He played Juggernaut.
So we have Turkish and Tommy, who are the boxing promoters, who are looking for a new caravan because apparently Turkish really wants a new caravan to use as his office in this like warehouse type facility where they train their boxers. And in order to get a new caravan, he sends Tommy to negotiate with the pikeys, as they're called. Now, I hesitate to use this word because this is,
Yeah, I don't know. Why.
I don't even know, I wouldn't call it a racial slur. It's just a slur. A slur
'Cause they're
against the
Irish,
traveler
right?
community.
Or is it not? Oh, so it's more like a gypsy.
Yeah, well, they're
slang.
called alternately gypsies or pikeys, which is the traveler community in Ireland and England, which both of them are slurs against them. So I will hesitate. I won't use those
Well,
terms
they use
myself.
it pretty freely in this.
They're used frequently in
Well,
this.
there's a lot of slurs going on in here.
Yes, of course, Turkish wants nothing to do with this himself, so he sends Tommy and Gorgeous George, who is the big boxer. And why he goes to buy a caravan off these travelers, I don't know.
Because I guess they cornered the market on them. They're like
Apparently so.
they all live in them.
So they buy the caravan, which they can't even make it out of the campsite because the axle comes off and the wheels are gone.
Yeah, so stupid.
So Brad Pitt's character, Mickey, gives him a deal. He says, okay, I'm going to fight the big man. And if he wins, I don't know, they're going to give him their money back or what have you. But of course, we find out that Brad Pitt's character, Mickey, is like a one-punch Mike Tyson type of a boxer.
He's good. One punch, he's down.
Yep. And so now Gorgeous George was going to be in a fight that they had promoted with Bricktop. So now Turkish and Tommy are in trouble because they have no fighter. So they get the idea, so they're not going to be killed by Bricktop, to get Mickey to fight for them. So there's that one storyline going on. And then there's another storyline with Dennis Farina and Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro has stolen a diamond, and this diamond is making its way through the underworld, changing hands. And this is where we meet Boris the Blade. This is where we meet Morgan, who is in this from The Walking Dead.
Yes, these three guys are great. These three characters.
Saul, Vinny, and Tyrone. And these are my favorite three characters.
Yes, no, these are because they're very inept, but they're trying to rob the box office for the
because now
match.
this is why I don't want to get into the plot.
No,
it's so
because
convoluted.
Because it bounces back and forth, and then later in the movie, literally all three storylines collide.
Yeah,
like literally car crash. Yeah.
So just really quickly, Boris the Blade knows about the diamond, and he knows that Benicio del Toro has it. So he hires these three guys to rob a bookie because he has sent Benicio to the bookie because he has a gambling problem. And then he tells them about a fight, and he knows that if he tells them about this fight, he won't be able to help himself, and he's going to have to go bet on it. He sends them to the bookie, and he also sends these three guys to rob the bookie, and they're actually watching the office in order to wait for him to get there. So they see a guy with a briefcase come in, but it's not Benicio. So they're in there. They rob the place, but it's also owned by Bricktop.
All bets are off.
All bets are off. And I love that girl.
Yes, just cool as can be. Cool as a cucumber.
Because she says, all bets are off. And
she's and pointing
Saul,
to the sign.
Morgan says, I'm not buying it. And she goes, that's great because I'm not selling it. All bets are off.
I got this bag of coins.
And she grabs the gun from them, and they can't get out. And in desperation, they take off their masks, look up, and they see they're being filmed, with no masks on. So there's this storyline with the diamond. There's the storyline with Bricktop, and Bricktop happens to own the bookies that they have robbed. So this is where the stories kind of coalesce together.
Yeah. And Dennis Farina's character, he's from the US, right? He flies over there.
Yes, because he's the one that's, I guess, going to be the end recipient of this diamond, or the money that they get from selling the diamond. So once he finds out that Frankie Four Fingers, who is Benicio, is missing.
I was going to say, are we ever going to see this character? Because you see him like in the very beginning, and then they just talk about him incessantly through the whole movie. And I'm like, are we ever actually going to see this character again?
Frankie Four Fingers?
Yes.
Well, because he has a tea cozy over his head for half the movie.
Is that it? Is that why I just didn't recognize it?
And then he is shot after that and dismembered. So he doesn't make it out of the movie alive. But
how do we know it was him?
Cousin Abby, well, that's the thing, is I think they only had Benicio for a certain amount of time. So he's only on screen with his face exposed in the beginning of the movie. And then the rest of it, he's got the thing over his head. Yeah.
Yeah. Body double.
So Cousin Abby, that's Dennis Farina's character, comes over to try to trace the diamond himself. He gets the help of Bullet Tooth Tony to kind of be his guide through the underworld. And then they come upon Saul, Vinny, and Tyrone, and the dog. Yeah. Love the dog that swallows the squeak toy and then squeaks for the rest of the movie.
Yes. Every time you pet him, he squeaks.
Yes.
There's some great lines. There's the one where Boris the bullet dodger. He goes, "Why do you call him the bullet dodger?" He's like, because he dodges bullets. It's like so stupid.
There's so many highlights of this. It just has so much memorable dialogue.
When you can understand it.
When you can understand it. Yeah. And also, speaking of that, Brad Pitt isn't in this movie a lot. But towards the end, when things start to get really heavy for our heroes here, and when I say heroes, I mean Turkish and Tommy, because they're really the protagonists of this, even though it's a huge ensemble. Brad Pitt's character, Mickey, is forced into fighting the last fight for Bricktop because Bricktop kills his mother. He burns her caravan with her in it. And then suddenly Mickey is bound to fight because Bricktop has threatened that he's going to kill the entire camp if he doesn't fight. And so Mickey does. He shows up drunk from his mother's funeral. And the final fight. Now, Mickey is supposed to take a dive in the fourth round.
Fourth round. Which he was supposed to do in the first one, but he
doesn't.
punched him out. Yeah.
He
And he one punches this guy this time as well. And the guy he fought, I thought was pre-Guardians Chris Pratt. It was not him.
But this is a great fight because you have Mickey coming into the arena, right? And you've got this pounding music going on, and there's people in the audience that want to fight him as he's making his way to the ring. And so he gets in there, and the guy actually pounds him pretty good for about a round or two.
They're getting hit.
Yeah, because you see like there's like freeze frames of Brad Pitt's, like, the sweat coming off of his face after being punched. And you're like, how can he not be being hit here?
I mean, this guy was literally knocking the tattoo off him because it was washing away at one point on his chest.
So again, there's one shot where the guy hits Mickey, and Mickey is like parallel. He's in the
mid-air, parallel to the floor. Yeah.
And then he hits the mat, and then suddenly it's like he's in the water, right?
He's underwater, yeah.
So it looks
really
like
well
he
done.
is.
It was really, yeah.
It looks like he is going down, right?
Yeah.
But not in the fourth round, but a lot earlier. And then suddenly he just comes to his senses, one punch, and the guy is down.
Yep.
And now you see everybody's like reaction to this.
Yeah, because now they all lost money because it was fixed. It was supposed to be fixed.
Because Bricktop has told everybody, all of his connections, that this guy was going down in the fourth, which did not happen. So now Turkish and Tommy know that they're going to be dead because Mickey didn't go down in the fourth. So they're trying to escape the arena before they can get their hands on them.
Yeah.
And so now here's the lovely reveal at the end of the movie where you see Bricktop in the alleyway, and he's cornered them. His car has blocked theirs in so they can't escape. So Mickey is there, Tommy and Turkish are there, and suddenly there's a freeze frame where
you hear a gunfire.
Turkish, and there's like this little monologue saying, you think, you're at the end of your life. They say that your life is supposed to flash by. It doesn't. What you do is you just pull a stupid face, and you see Turkish and Tommy with stupid faces. And they're saying, now Mickey didn't pull a stupid face because he knew something. And then, of course, we see Bricktop's men at the campsite. They get killed by the Travelers. And then we already have Travelers that have killed Bricktop's men, who are in Bricktop's car,
waiting for him to get in,
waiting for him to come into the alleyway. So all of Bricktop's men are killed by the end of the movie.
Yep. So revenge has been had.
At the same time, the diamond was swallowed by the same dog that swallowed the squeak toy. Yeah. Because the diamond has made its way back to Saul, Vinny, and Tyrone. The dog grabs it and runs out of the office while Cousin Avi and Bullet Tooth Tony are there. Cousin Avi is just shooting blindly at the dog after it grabs the diamond, and he ends up killing Bullet Tooth Tony. So the dog ends up in the care of Turkish and Tommy. They don't know about the diamond. They just know that there's something squeaking in the dog.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they go to the traveler camp at the end.
And it's abandoned.
It's abandoned except for the dog.
Yeah.
The cops show up.
The cops show up. And what are you doing here? And then he says something like, what's in the car? And he goes, seats in a steering wheel.
But, here's the question, and you don't want to ask because you're having such a great time. I don't want to tear apart this movie at all. But wasn't Tommy and Turkish's car blocked in by Bricktop and a bunch of dead bodies? So you'd think that the police would be onto them a lot sooner than they were at the campsite.
That is true. Yeah, no, you're free to go. No, we're just out walking the dog. All of a sudden, the dog comes up over the hill. Tommy's chasing after him. And that's where they're driving away. And he's got the dog on his lap. And that's when you see Saul, Tyrone, and they're all being pulled over. Oh, what do you got with the severed body in the back of your car? And they see the dog, and they're just like, oh, crap.
And then, of course, they go to the vet to get the squeak out, and the vet discovers the diamond. So the movie begins and ends with Turkish and Tommy at Doug the Heads with this diamond. And then Cousin Avi gets the call and comes back to London. Once
somebody might be interested.
Yeah.
I might. And then you just see that quick little montage again of him jumping on a plane down in the drink. Yeah. Passport. Oh, when he did leave after the hallway fight, Avi went back to the States. And they do that little montage and they cut to the passport, the guy's like, anything to declare? And he goes, yeah, don't go to the UK. This was enjoyable, absolutely enjoyable to watch. I did read that Vinnie Jones during filming was arrested for fighting, and they had to use a lookalike in certain points because he was in jail. Do you know who was originally they wanted for Bricktop?
Who?
You knew the story? Sean Connery.
Really?
Sean Connery. They gave him a private screening of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and he came out and he's like, "This is a good film." And then he leans in, he's like, "But you can't afford me." And so I guess he was. It would have been a different movie. It would have been interesting him playing that.
It would have been. It would have been.
Yes, indeed. I also read that the dog did, in fact, bite Lenny James in the crotch during the car scene. And then replaced the dog with another one.
Because the dog on camera attacks several of the cast.
Yeah. So 163 times the F-bomb dropped.
Oh, really?
Just so you know that. Yeah. And like I said, this is infinitely rewatchable. This is a movie I've not visited in quite some time.
When this was first released, you'd think that the title was risque, but it's not meant to be at all. You know, it's
my wife thought so. The minute I put it on, she goes, "What are we watching?" I said, "We're watching Snatch," and she's like, "What?" I did read that. I guess that there was some discussion about changing it to Snatched for the U.S. market.
The word is meant to be, you know, snatch as in taking something. And there's actually a line of dialogue
there is
when the dog grabs the squeaky toy.
Yep.
And I think it's Saul that says, "Don't snatch."
Yeah.
And that's when it's uttered during the film.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least they didn't go with the C word.
Oh, that would not be released anywhere if they went with the C word.
No. I saw 2 reviews, both ends of the spectrum on IMDb, that I thought were interesting. So the top of the line, which is Snatch, is nothing if not watchable. It has the insane popcorn rhythms of a Roadrunner cartoon, and for that reason alone, it's a minor masterpiece. And I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then we have this one, which is for those who care. Madonna has found her match in Guy Ritchie, whose absence of talent when it comes to film medium is equal to her own.
Oh,
that's harsh. Someone had a bad day. We had a Madonna song. He paid $1 million to get Lucky Stars.
He couldn't get that for free.
No, apparently not.
And I think it may be my favorite Brad Pitt performance. It just may be.
12 Monkeys is still up there for me. Ad Astra? No. Space Monkeys?
No.
Go back and listen to that episode.
That's on the lower tier, I'm afraid.
We both walked out of that one very disappointed. He did look dreamy though in space.
Now, this was a box office hit. It cost $10 million to make, and it made $83.6 million at the box office globally. That's it. So Mr. Pitt took a big pay cut for this, apparently.
And Statham really didn't have a name for himself back then. So
no. And again, he was just, part of that ensemble. He was not an action guy in this. He's actually the one scene where he looks like he's going to do something. It's when the Bricktop's thugs are destroying arcade.
The arcade. Yeah.
So he comes upon them doing this. He takes a baseball bat, which is ripped from his hands from behind immediately.
Tommy,
so he doesn't mount
Tommy
any kind of an offense.
Tommy saves the day. Who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to go back. I'm gonna watch Lock, Stock next.
Lock, Stock?
I think so. What are some of his other ones? Rock and Rolla?
Rock and Rolla. Yeah, I did see that and not a fan of that one.
Oh, no.
Rock and Rolla, as we said, Aladdin is another one.
I don't need to watch that again.
I've never seen Aladdin.
I'm assuming it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I would assume so as well.
Who would ever thought that Guy Ritchie movie was on Disney?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I really enjoyed watching this again. I would give this 4 buckets. I
went 4 1/4.
4 1/4.
4 1/4. I enjoyed it immensely. Very fun. Yeah. And I'm sure I probably didn't appreciate it the first time I saw it, but I had to thankfully it got the stink of that Wrath of Man out of my nostrils.
And I'm glad, as you did, I watched it second. I did not watch it before Wrath of Man.
It's such a departure from what he's done.
That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if it was good.
Correct. Well, I did like that he used it a little bit in Wrath of Man, but more so in this one. His use of surveillance screens, of using a television screen with Lenny James and one of the other characters, and Lenny James is like you're over his shoulder looking at the other character, but you see his face in the surveillance monitor that's now facing you. So you're almost getting like 2 takes of the same scene.
Correct.
Without cutting, without shooting it twice and cutting. And he did that a couple times in here with these the video screen stuff.
And the entire opening credits sequence is all done on security monitors.
Yes. Well. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this was it. This was the pinnacle for him. Maybe it's all downhill for now.
It's not a bad pinnacle to have, I'll tell you.
No. And it's free. It's out there. Tubi.
All right. We have to talk Loki.
Wow.
So this is the third gift that Marvel Television or Disney Plus has given us in 2021 thus far. And now I'm a little bit sad that Loki is now here because
it'll be here
after this is over, then, there's no more Marvel shows for quite some time.
No. Well, we'll get Black Widow. But yeah, as far as shows go. I think Hawkeye's wrapped.
True, yeah, Hawkeye's coming. Although I'm not really as excited about that one as I was these 3 that we've been given so far.
I think they'll make it. By the time it gets here, you'll be excited again. But
Loki, we're talking.
We're only 6 episodes, so we're more in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we're getting almost a solid hour, as opposed to WandaVision, which is they were like 20-30 minutes at the most. So, and there's a lot going on here. This is a lot of exposition. It's a lot of setup. And I think in a past episode, we talked about expectations on this show. And I don't remember what I thought at the time, but and now after watching this, I think this is going to have huge implications for all these other movies coming.
Yeah, because I was trying to wrap my brain around how they would work this into the greater MCU, because it really seemed like it could only be focused around Loki, because as we said, we just covered the original Avengers not too long ago as a 5-bucket episode. And this Loki that we see here in this show is the Loki that is in Avengers 2012, because we see him on an alternate timeline escape from captivity in Endgame. And you get a replay of that at the beginning of this first episode.
Yeah, so you understand that. And they do go out of their way to explain that to you and set up the fact that we have this bureaucracy known as the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, and they immediately come and arrest him,
which is
escaping the timeline.
Because you're given this exposition in the form of a Jurassic Park style video.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. A little orientation video with the, I don't know, Ms. Minutes or whatever the little cartoon clock thing is. But yeah, so, it's very Jurassic Parkish.
Just as a fun fact, the video is narrated by Tara Strong, who we know as Raven in Teen Titans Go.
I didn't pick up on that.
But, before we get to the TVA, as they call themselves, Loki grabs the Tesseract during Endgame, during that, that alternate timeline of the Avengers 2012, and escapes using the Tesseract. He ends up in the Gobi Desert, is where the Tesseract brings him. And he's not there, not even a couple of minutes. The TVA shows up and brings him to their offices as a prisoner, as a time prisoner. And I love it how they strip him down and put him in like an orange outfit.
Garb,
and he says, that's Asgardian leather.
Right. And he thinks that, I'm Loki. You can't hold me. And there's that great little thing where he's brought before the judge and he's trying to pull his powers together by twitching his arms.
And he can't do it. Yeah.
What is he doing? I think he's trying to manifest his powers, I think. And they're all like it's funny. It's called Loki because all these characters, especially Owen Wilson, very low key. They are very like just chill. Like he's like a caged tiger. Like there's no way you can keep me here because I am the god of mischief. I am Loki. and everything he does is just thwarted. And when he's waiting in line, take a ticket was funny, and the one kid in front of him wouldn't take the ticket and immediately got vaporized. It's like, that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
you know?
And they take the Tesseract off him as soon as he gets there. And
Yeah.
he said, be very careful with that. It's a Tesseract. And the guy, you know, just the guy in the office, well, it sounds dumb, as he takes it and puts it in a drawer.
He puts it in a drawer. Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, supposedly this he has jumped. He's created a variant timeline. He's a variant, I guess, is what.
He's a variant, and so he's out of time. And he realizes before the episode is over that he's not going to get the opportunity to go back because he is an anomaly at this point.
Yeah.
And so he has no timeline that he belongs to.
But we're introduced to Mobius, who is Owen Wilson. And did they go out of their way to make his nose look even worse than normal? Because that thing's a mess.
It looks like it's been broken a few times.
Yeah. But I'm like, maybe it just high definition, just
maybe he got into a fight with Jason Statham and came out on the wrong
You
end.
think so? But the minute he opens his mouth, I'm just like, oh, it's Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he's very, I don't think he's ever played like this character is so subdued and just kind of like he's always playing for laughs, and he's not. Even though some of the stuff he says is funny. You know, here's Loki and he's spouting out and he's like, oh, you're a big metaphor guy. Huh? He goes, I love it. Makes you sound smart. And Loki's like, I am smart. It's like, yeah, not smart enough to escape us.
This occurred to me as well. But Loki at one point says, you know, go after the Avengers. They're the ones that broke the law.
Right. And apparently they were meant to time travel.
Yeah.
They were meant to go back, but I did not catch this on my screening, but I've seen enough people who have brought it up that apparently when he does escape the room and he's running amok and he does have the Tesseract, right?
Yeah.
There's a door, one of these little portal doors opens behind him, and a person comes out who looks very much like Peggy Carter.
Really?
So there's a lot of speculation that somehow because Steve went back, was Steve meant to go back and have that life with her? Or are we going to find out that maybe he was arrested at one point or she was brought in? I don't know. I think it's all speculation. I don't think that Disney has confirmed that this was Peggy Carter or was supposed to be Peggy Carter. But we even in that orientation video, they do mention the multiverse and they mention the word madness. And we see these timekeepers, right? There's 3 of them that kind of hold this sacred timeline in place. It's all like cartoons.
Yeah.
And
Now,
all I
is
could think of-
this derived from the books at all? Is this TVA?
Well, the only thing I can, the TVA was created by Walt Simonson in his run of Thor, in that probably would have been the mid 80s. And this character Mobius does exist because his design. So in this TVA, all of the characters look exactly the same. All the people in this TVA authority look like one of Marvel's editors, who was a continuity editor. His name was Mark Grunwald. And so it was kind of an homage to him. And Owen Wilson does kind of look like him with the mustache and the hair. But in the comics,
okay.
all the people who exist or who work in this TVA looked exactly the same. This does exist in the comics, but going back to these timekeepers, there's 3 of them. And all I could think of is there's a character called the Living Tribunal. And it's a body. I think he's all gold, but then he has a floating head, but it's 3 faces. Right? It's like he's got 3 different faces and it rotates around or whatever. So I don't know if those are supposed to be him or if they become him. I don't know. So yeah, the Avengers thing was interesting that they brought that up. But so now he's showing Loki the timeline that he is not created yet, or the alternate Loki is now. And they show Coulson's death, but he doesn't mention the fact that Coulson
is still alive. Yeah.
So I don't know if are we just dismissing Shield as an MCU.
Because when I saw Coulson, this is a grand opportunity right here to
Yes,
reintroduce
yes.
him back.
Yes, no, not even mentioned. I mean, not that he's alive. So I thought that was really kind of an interesting thing. But this is the second show now that's gone out of its way to try and make Dark World better. Somebody really wants me to go back and watch
I really
this movie
like
again.
Dark World.
I have to
really
revisit
do.
it now because we do see, how he accidentally killed his mother, Frigga.
We also see what Agent Mobius has been doing up until, Loki arrives, that he's chasing a fugitive variant that's killing Minutemen, which are, I guess, TVA agents, and going through time and chasing this guy. And before the episode's over, they suggest that the fugitive variant that they're hunting is Loki himself.
It's Loki. It's a Loki variant. So where did this Loki come from?
But again, just like in WandaVision, you get a hint of what could be Mephisto in here, because when they travel back to 1549 in France,
Yeah,
they're in a church and he's questioning this little boy who's been given like blueberry gum, so his teeth are all blue.
yeah. What is up with that kablooey gum?
Yeah,
It's like
And he
something you
looks
buy
up-
on the back of a comic book.
he looks up at the stained glass and it's like
Yeah.
this demon figure. That's
Yeah, I don't know if that's just because, if you think about Loki with his helmet on, he does have those big horns.
Yes, he does.
So if it was just, yeah, but you're right. It's like, it's Mephisto all over again.
Yeah.
Here we go. So who better to track down a Loki variant than a Loki variant himself?
Correct. Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking, but what is he doing? He's going through these portals and going through time, killing these TVA agents, right? To what effect?
Somehow is the Loki that we see apprehended by the TVA the same Loki, just on a different timeline that is the fugitive.
Future. Yeah.
And now he's disgruntled against the TVA.
Yeah.
And that's why he's killing them.
But it's funny because you see, like you said, this is the Loki from the Avengers. This is not the Loki we've seen in the subsequent movies where you see him with his father, you see him with Odin and Thor, and he's become a little more humanized. But just in the time that he spends with Mobius, like he's really like, well, he's asking him questions like, why are you the way you are? Why are you doing this?
Like,
And
do
he's
you
really-
enjoy hurting people? is one
Right.
of the
He's
questions he asks them.
really making him kind of look and say, I'm not a bad guy. Yeah. It was
Which-
interesting. There's a lot going on here in this.
Which
first
is
episode.
convenient because, as you said, by the time Loki ends his storyline in Infinity War,
Which he does see on the screen. He
he
that
sees
gets
on the
killed
screen.
Dude, I worked for you. I brought your armies in the first movie, and now you kill me
Yeah.
2 movies later.
So, but by
Oh.
the time we get there as viewers, we love the character of Loki, right? And
Yes,
we
yeah.
kind of liked him before, to be honest with you. But by this time, he is like fully, with the heroes. So this is a convenient plot device to really quickly get him to that point again in this show. To
Yeah.
make you realize, okay, he was never really a bad guy.
Yeah, it's interesting because they had to have had this in motion when they set him up in Endgame.
Oh yeah, they had to. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you catch when they first captured him, and like you're saying, they stripped him of his clothes and put him in the jumpsuit? The robot that was in his cell with him looked very much like Herbie from the
Yes.
Fantastic Four cartoon.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but we also were introduced to the character's name is Hunter B-15, and she's one of the guards, and she's like a badass guard. Like, I love this character, and I hope she
Okay.
comes back. And then we had the time judge, Ravonna Renslayer, and they were just kind of like laughing at him that he really, you have no clue. And you do see the scene where, Mobius is walking in, and you get that big open vista of where they are. This facility is just absolutely monstrous. And you're like,
And-
where is this? When is this?
I know. And Loki, he's from Asgard, and even he's saying, this isn't real.
We did get mention of a nightmare department. So that's interesting.
Yes, we did. And I love the fact that the Infinity Stones are worthless here.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was his moment of realization when when he breaks out of that room and he gets the little clicker and he's screwing with the hunter lady there, the little clerk that was like walking around. Yeah. And he opens up the drawer because he wants the Tesseract back. And there's just Infinity Stones laying around. He goes, wait, what do you have these? He goes, yeah, some of us use them as paperweights because they have no power outside of their own timeline.
And they've got multiple of the same Infinity Stones. So you could tell that they're plucking them from various timelines. And they've got several of the red stone and the orange stone you see in there, and the time stone as well.
But they're all worthless. Casey, that was the guy's name. Casey.
Yes, Loki threatens to gut him like a fish, and he doesn't.
Yeah,
know
and he goes,
what
"What's a fish?"
Is. Yeah.
What? How do you not know what a fish is? How are you running a timeline, a sacred timeline, and not know what a fish is?
It's extremely interesting to watch as a fan of the MCU. It's not the most action-packed hour.
No,
it is,
like I said,
full
it's a
of
lot
exposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you need to. I mean, you need to establish what this world is that you're now forced into, because it's unlike anything that we've seen up to this point in the MCU.
No, and if anybody's like on the fence about this because of the exposition and because of the the dialogue heavy nature of the episode, just remember that there's a lot of scratching heads over the first 2 episodes of WandaVision as well.
Oh, I know people who still haven't watched WandaVision because they couldn't get past those first 2 episodes. Now that it's all out there, you can binge it, people. You don't have to wait a week.
Just like the other 2 shows, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I am completely invested in this one after the first episode, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah. You know what I'm excited for is that they're releasing a limited edition Lucky Charms known as Loki charms.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, the box has a little, he's got the little Loki outfit on, the little Irish.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I come across the box, do I buy it just for the stupid box?
Just for the stupid box. Lucky Charms, not a favorite cereal of mine, I have to say.
No.
Never been a fan.
Well, Fruity Pebbles for me, but anyways, there's one other thing which I don't know if you're aware of that's getting a lot of poo-pooing on the internet, which is in the closing credits, you have a lot of paperwork because obviously the TVA is very bureaucratic. And so the closing credits, you have all these files, Loki's file or whatever. And on his dossier, under his sex, it reads fluid.
Oh, I did not see that.
And people are losing their effing minds over this. Why does it have to always be the left? And why do we have to pander? And it's like, I'm not a scholar when it comes to Norse mythology. He changes gender in the comics. So to me, it doesn't really have anything to do with sexuality. He can be whatever he wants to be. His weight is like 500 plus pounds on that same piece of paper. So he's only projected what he wants you to see. Apparently,
he's a frost giant, right?
Right. Technically, you're right. Yeah. Oh, that was the thing too, is that the girl, that the judge there, she did not refer to him as Odin's son. She referred to him by his biological father. I can't remember what his name is, Aether son or something like that. She referred to him as. So I thought that was interesting, but I forgot to take a note. But in Norse mythology, he gender flips all the time. And at one point, it even gave birth to Odin's 8-legged horse. So that's about as fluid as you're going to get. I don't know. I just found it interesting that, people are all up in arms and willing to scream to the heavens and cry over this. And it's just like, well, it's not like they're just making it up. It's blame the Norse. and who knows if it's even going to play, what does it matter?
All right. So there you have it. Loki, promising start.
Yes. We'll see what happens next week. We'll find out what this other Loki variant is up to. He sounds very disgruntled, as you pointed out.
So not only are we going to be watching Loki on Disney Plus next week.
Oh, we're going right down to Disney rabbit hole next week.
Yeah, we are.
And these are not Disney princesses by any means.
No. And so we're watching a couple of newly reimagined characters that have their own feature films. And we're not talking about Aladdin, even though we brought that up earlier.
Yeah, no, we're not going to Aladdin.
We are going to be watching Cruella next week.
And I will be watching it in the theater. I am going to the theater for this one.
I am going to stick home because it's going to save me some dollars if I watch it on Disney
It's actually saving me money going to the theater.
Because you're going to go alone, I assume, right? So
yeah,
it is going to save you money. But I'm bringing 3 people, so it's going to
That's true.
cheaper for me.
Yes. I'm excited though, because you mentioned the fact, well, it was off air. You didn't mention on the show last week that when you were in the theater watching A Quiet Place, the movie was so quiet, you could actually hear the theater next to you, and it was Cruella. And you said it had a pretty rockin' 60s soundtrack.
There was 60s song after 60s song, and it did distract me, I have to say, quite a bit from A Quiet Place too.
Yeah, Quiet Place was a little too quiet in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so we have a theme going next week. Along with Cruella, we are taking another Disney character and watching her reimagined film, live action, the original Maleficent. Now, I know that there's a sequel out there starring as Angelina Jolie, but we are watching the original Maleficent.
I don't think I ever saw the second one.
I've not seen either of them. So this is going to be a first watch for me. Yeah.
Ew. Is this our first Angelina Jolie movie?
I believe that it could be. Yeah.
How is that possible? Yeah, so Cruella, Maleficent, and Loki. So we're not bad. We were just drawn that way.
Could Loki be considered a Disney villain at this point? I think he could.
Well, apparently to this gender flipping, he could be a Disney princess. For all he cares. That I wouldn't mind at all. That would piss people.
You have just the idea of that has angered so many people.
Oh, it's a fictional character. Yes. So Cruella looks fun. Emma Stone, right?
Emma Stone. Yeah.
Emma Stone. So this is like a prequel. This is how she becomes obsessed with Dalmatian pets?
I would assume so. Yeah, you get a backstory of why she is the way she is in 101
There better be a little tagline at the end of this movie that says no animals were harmed in the making of this film.
But there you have it. So next week, we are all about Disney.
All right, I'm in. Cool. All right, kids. Thank you as always. Enjoy.
Yes. Thanks for listening.
In the immortal words of Mickey.
Periwinkle Blue. Periwinkle Blue.
All right. Bye.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Tenet, I hate to say this, Tenet has a more comprehensive storyline than this.
I disagree. I disagree.